The community day that we're going to be getting in the month of May is going to be featuring the electric type Pokemon Pawmi. Now, I'm personally really excited about this community day, but there's a lot of players out there who are voicing some frustrations as well as some disappointment. And I'm going to be talking about all of that in today's video. Let's get right into it. Alright, how's it going everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon GO video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So, they announced what the community day is going to be in the month of May. It is going to be featuring the Pokemon Pawmi, and I really thought this announcement was not a big surprise because they actually kind of hinted that it would be Pawmi before the announcement, and I think a lot of players suspected that it would be a Pokemon just like Pawmi. Now the nice thing is, this is going to be the shiny debut for this Pokemon, and it does have quite a unique look. So I think that alone is really exciting. It's very rare that we ever get a community day featuring a shiny debut, but I think there's a lot of players who are just feeling a little bit disappointed by this announcement, and I think some of those disappointments are well merited, but other things I do not necessarily agree with. But before we get into that, let's actually talk about the details for this event, and then afterwards I'll talk about why players are feeling frustrated. Pawmi Community Day is going to be happening on Sunday, May 11th from 2 o'clock p.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. local time. For the people who live in the Americas, May 11th is actually going to be this year's Mother's Day, so unfortunately this event might actually coincide with a lot of people's different plans. So I think that's a bit unfortunate and possibly an oversight from Niantic, but at the very least, if you're free on Sunday, May 11th, there's going to be a community day featuring the Pokemon Pawmi. Now, if you evolve Pawmi fully into Pawmot, you're going to get the featured attack Brick Break, and there's a lot of thoughts going around regarding this move, and I will get into that later. Now, there's also going to be a special research which is going to be available for you to purchase in the web store, and it's going to give you Pawmi with a special background. Now, let's talk about the plethora of different event bonuses that are going to be active during this community day. First and foremost, any egg that you place in incubators during this event is going to have a quarter hatch distance. And then any Pokemon that you catch is going to give you 2 times the amount of candy, and you're going to have double the chance at getting XL candy during this event. And then lure modules and incense, excluding the daily adventure incense, are going to last for 3 hours, and you're going to get additional encounters with snapshots. That's something you should definitely keep in mind, especially if you live in a rural area. And you're also going to be able to get 1 additional special trade during this event, and then trades are going to cost 50% less Stardust. And then for a limited time, the evolution requirement for Pawmo is going to be different, which I do think is going to be very convenient for pretty much every single player. And then finally, there's going to be field research tasks during this event, and it's going to award you with Pawmi encounters, as well as Stardust and Great Balls. It's a great way for you to get additional encounters. And there's going to be a special background timed research, which is going to be after Community Day, and it's going to give you encounters with Pawmi with a special background. Alright, so like I said at the top of this video, players are feeling a little bit frustrated and very disappointed with this particular announcement. Now, I think some of the reasons why people are disappointed are certainly legit. I do think that having this community day on Mother's Day is definitely just inconvenient. A lot of players do celebrate Mother's Day, and because of that, it's not going to be a community day where a lot of players are able to actually play the game. So I think that alone was very disappointing. I know that Mother's Day is not something that is celebrated around the world. It's kind of like an America's specific holiday, but at the same time, I do understand why players would be frustrated because they probably had some plans with their mothers and they wanted to spend time with their mothers, and they did not want to have a community day on that day, and that totally is understandable. It might be a bit of an oversight, or maybe it's something that Niantic just legitimately planned for. They just did not necessarily care about it being on Mother's Day, and I really do not know the reasons why. Maybe it's just because they totally understand that players are going to play if they want to play, and I think that's not necessarily a good thing, but it is kind of the truth. But I think the other point that players are frustrated about is in regards to Pawmi's exclusive move, which is going to be Brick Break. This is a move that doesn't necessarily make sense with Pawmi, and a lot of people were pointing out that this Pokemon already has a signature move, which they could have gone with, but instead of going with that move, they're giving it Brick Break, which is kind of inconsequential. It doesn't really do anything for this Pokemon. It's not going to make this Pokemon a PvP Pokemon or anything like that. It doesn't give it any kind of good type coverage. So I think because of that, players are just kind of scratching their heads regarding why they are giving this Pokemon Brick Break, and I totally understand that. It kind of is reminiscent of a legacy move for Raichu, which did not really do much for that Pokemon, so essentially it's going to be the same thing with this Pokemon. I think it's totally understandable that players are feeling like this is a bit of a letdown because they could have given this Pokemon a really decent move and actually made it useful in the game. But as of right now, it's basically going to be a collector's item. It's not going to be something that a lot of players are going to be working towards. There's plenty of really good Pokemon, especially when it comes to PvP, that are going to do the job a lot better than Pawmi, even with the introduction of Brick Break in its move pool. So yeah, that is a big disappointment. I will agree with that one. So I do think Niantic could have done something better for Pawmi, especially considering that it is going to be getting its own community day. But essentially right now, it's kind of like Pikachu Community Day, where you're just getting a collector's item at that point. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm still kind of excited about this community day. I do plan to spend at least a couple of hours in it so I can get the shiny. But aside from that, yeah, I think there's a lot of better things that they could have done for this particular Pokemon and this community day, and I totally understand why players are frustrated about it. And one other thing that I'm going to say is that some players were expecting a different Pokemon. I do know that when it came to Pawmi, that was a Pokemon that a lot of players suspected would get a community day one day, and sure enough, it is getting a community day, but some people were thinking that maybe they would have gone with Quaxly, considering that this year they introduced the two other starters from this generation, and it would have made sense for them to go with the third one. But I think that's going to be the one in June, that's my suspicion, and that means it's going to be completely different of a schedule from previous year's community days, because a lot of people would think that instead of Quaxly, it would be a Pokemon like Jangmo-O, considering that they usually do a pseudo-legendary in the middle of the year, but I really do not know what they're going to do. It's possible that we're going to get Jangmo-O in June and then Quaxly in July. That would make the most sense to me. But yeah, I think a lot of players were hoping that they would have gone with Quaxly for this community day, and I totally understand why people are feeling a bit disappointed that it didn't end up that way. So yeah, that's another thing that a lot of players are complaining about that I've seen on social media, but I don't necessarily agree with that one. I think it really doesn't matter what Pokemon they go with, it's just, as long as they eventually get to Quaxly, that's totally fine with me. So yeah, but in any case, these are the reasons why players are feeling disappointed, and yeah, I would like to know your thoughts, because maybe people totally agree with why these are very frustrating points with this community day, or people might just disagree and they are very excited about it. I really do not know, but I do want to gauge where the community is at currently, so if you have any thoughts regarding this community day, definitely share them in the comments down below. I would like to know what you're thinking, and yeah, hopefully we can have a great discussion. And with that said, that's going to be it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. If you ended up enjoying this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget the notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, if you want to support everything that I do, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And if you decide to become a paid Patreon member, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon GO friends list. And that means for stuff like remote raids, the friendship system, opening and sending gifts. If you want to play Pokemon GO with me on the daily, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you're always welcome to do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on the bottom of your screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you in the next one.
진솔아와 함께해